Welcome back to Global Fintech Fest 2022-23. We resume back right here towards a quick chat that we are approaching towards 4. And to discuss the same, the topic to be addressed, I think we have patrons still coming in. We are good to start, right? Yes. So we are going to be addressing a special topic here. They are going to, in fact, with moderator Ferruccio that is here. He's the head of global business development, Kaleyra. And alongside we have Mr. Ajit Anantharaman. He's the chief information security officer, Hansa Cequity. And alongside we have Mr. Abhisheik Vishwakarma, head of business, banking products and digital business partnerships, Unity Small Finance Bank. Technology game changers to enhance consumer and customer experiences is the topic, as you can rightly see on the screen. So without any further ado, I would request Mr. Moderator to take it over from here. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see if it works properly. So just a word from about Kaleyra. You know, we enable and we help high regulated enterprises build the omnichannel strategy. So today is not about Kaleyra, it's about building knowledge and learning, myself and maybe something on your side as well. So I'm pleased to introduce the contribution. So they are the man on the stage today. I'm just the moderator. So Abhisheik, you want to introduce yourself, and then Ajit, just a word.
So thank you for getting me on this panel. So brief introduction about me is I'm a banker, almost 20 years into banking, and I'm going to bring in the business aspects of how customer centricity is brought in from a banking product standpoint.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, so I'm, as she said, playing my primary role is basically Chief Information Security Officer and Data Protection Officer. But I also contribute largely towards enterprise solutioning for MarTech solutions. So technically we both complement each other. So I hope to add some value today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So the contribution, you understand, it's the great balance between security and business requirements when it comes to customer experience. And well, fintech BFSI sector is like very dynamic. You can see the various booths, and competition and cooperation are bringing a lot of new technologies, as you know, on the incumbents and neobanks as well. So on this side, what we'll focus on today is what the banks are doing right now as omnichannel strategy or omnichannel banking solutions. So it's funny, or it's interesting how we judge a bank not for the services or the rates, but typically for the customer experience, how the app works, how they contact a customer, or how we can handle issues with them. So this is pretty much the focus. So right now, banks are using and shifting from physical to hybrid to do-it-yourself. What we're seeing in Europe and why we are here today is to understand also the Indian specific for my side of the business is really how the interaction are changing, and how business-related, your experience on your customers are choosing the right interaction from physical, digital, and let's say hybrid, where the human touch is always there. So the professional side is important. Abhisheik, what you think about this?
So there has been a tectonic shift in how customers view the bank and the banking products, right? In the erstwhile past, it was always physical channels. So people would walk into a branch and try to open bank accounts. Today, it's become totally digital, where the young population wants to open up bank accounts without even walking into a branch. They will like use a mobile app and start transacting with it. So there is a tectonic shift. If banking products are created with customer centricity, right, where keep the customer at the center and then try to build the products around it, make it much more user friendly, and then make it such that it is very intuitive for them to kind of open and transact with the bank. I think that is the future that we are seeing, especially in India.
Yeah, and about your view of your banking customers as a consultant, what you think is the trend or what you're observing. You know, you have incumbents and neobanks that they have different targets, but more or less are copying each other or cooperating in this field.
Right. So essentially, what's happened is, while COVID was not appreciated for the obvious reasons, but it also brought in a lot of technical changes, right? So technology became a big it was adapted in a big way, and now people expect that we continue it that way because we have got used to getting services without putting that extra effort which earlier we had to put to get the same thing done, right? So the older banks, to your question, the older banks are trying to get more mature in terms of using the latest technologies. Obviously, it's more difficult for them because they have legacy systems and data, and it's a humongous ask to make it compatible. The newer banks are thinking out of box and saying, okay, we don't want to do what a traditional bank was doing all these years. Can I start from a gear 5 rather than starting from gear 0 or 1, which would be how a typical bank would actually start. So yeah, there's a big shift. I think it's good for the end customer, and as Abhisheik rightly also said, the entire focus is customer, right, and experience. So there's a lot of focus on knowing whether a customer actually got a good experience. So there's more effort being made to actually take feedbacks and improve the system. While earlier, with the few options in hand, the banks possibly were not so keen, and they were more focused on the revenue part of it.
Yeah, thank you. So digital is the default mode for a lot of customers, I say. Maybe the majority, well, then we can open a discussion on this. But if we are building an omnichannel strategy on digital environments, so which kind of channels the bank are investing on bringing a seamless experience, a customer journey that is really smooth and seamless? Which channels do you see the banks are using as a communication tool,
Right. So traditionally, we are known to have, the old-fashioned way of, sending emails, SMSs. Right now, WhatsApp obviously is the new thing, and a lot of new features are coming on WhatsApp. WhatsApp has a high open rate, so most organizations prefer WhatsApp. But then, more than the channel, I think you can't replace an SMS or an email for whatever purpose it is. You still have to use it. But now I think the focus right now is to do more of micro targeting. So it's no longer to do mass blast. That fashion is out of the way. You are spending a lot of money on deep analysis, identifying the right audience, right, to whom that particular specific set of offer or that message has to go. And no longer it's a fashion of sending 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. I'm happy even if I send 100. But then it has to be targeted and it has to be measurable, right? So the returns has to be like, so out of the 100, I would want all the 100 to actually open it, read it, do whatever that, message has to be done. So I think in addition to that, some of the new ways of, reaching out to customers where, things like video calling, chatbots with AI, right? Siri, so, you just ask a question and, you get an answer through it. Metaverse is slowly picking up. So these are the new things. Maybe I'll keep a few for my subsequent questions.
Some secrets.
Things.
Okay. Abhisheik, your point of view here, banking stand-up view.
So I think one point which my friend just pointed out and it struck me was that contextual messaging, right? If you blast 100 SMSs or emails to 100 people, you're not sure how many of them are actually going to respond. But if I can contextualize it, for example, if I have transaction data for business, and I can then, using analytics, figure out what is the working capital requirement of that particular business on that particular day. And if I can then on that day send him an SMS saying, hey, this is an offer for you, you can get 5 lakh rupees of loan. The probability of he taking that loan is far more better than just sending out SMSs on the 30th of the month. So that's one point which is picking up very much in India. The second point which I would want to bring in is the omni-channel presence, right? You can't say that I will only send an SMS or I'll only do a WhatsApp message, because the customer could be interacting with you at any point in time, right? He could be walking into a branch. So if he even walks into a branch, the teller should be able to tell him that, hey, do you need a loan today? It seems that you are running short of, say, 5 lakh rupees from a working capital standpoint. Or if he's on the internet logging into net banking, then the messaging on the net banking has to be similar. So the consistent messaging across all channels and then contextualizing it for that particular moment. I think these are two main trends which I think are happening within the country.
Well, thank you both, because, well, I'm happy to hear this, because it's what Kaleyra does. You know, we try to build this not only for fintech or BFSI sector, but cross sector. So it's all about strategy. So you need to choose the right identity or preference of your customers or your targets and choose the right channel. Maybe also the right time and other strategies that you can add. But this is really what we are trying to do right now, and well, in some cases successfully. So we're trying to do it also here in India with the banking sector, and this is important. So thank you. Well, another thing that for me and for Kaleyra, I represent Kaleyra, but I think it's the pillar of the banking sector is how you build trust. Okay, because before physical, you had the handshake. You can see the man in the eye, and you can trust them as a professional and you as a customer, okay? Going on digital channels that typically are do-it-yourself to, let's say, most privileged, what we want to understand is what you think about building trust in this environment. So the first thing that, for me, I think it's important, because it's a trend, actual trend, is how you build confidence on your customer on security. You know, you see commercials on TV or on internet, or now TV, it's old-fashioned, sorry, about trust and security layers on devices, or on I don't know, other environments. So when it comes to a bank that relates with the customer on a digital environment, how you build this confidence?
So there are many ways to build this confidence. It's a great question. And I think today everyone is focused on the word privacy, right? Everyone is eagerly waiting for the Indian Data Privacy Act whenever it comes. The first thing is to be as clear and transparent as possible, right? So trust is something that we can't buy, we have to earn, right? As we say. So it has to be very clear and transparent, and it has to be something that relates to that customer. Customer's need or area of interest, or the situation that the customer is. For example, if I was to have a very complicated process, you fill this form, you do this, you sign here, but then I'm an uneducated person, right, and with a low income category, will I trust? I may often have to rely on somebody I know to say, okay, should I sign here, because I don't understand what is written here. Or, if I have a 5-page privacy notice, and you expect me to go through those fine prints and then understand, and by the time I read the 5th line, I'm all lost because I'm not from that domain or subject, right? So that is one. The proof of the pudding is actually in the eating, right? So when there are instances, how do you deal with them? How much you cover or not cover? How you actually go that extra mile to prove that, actually we did a mistake, we are sorry, we raise our hands, and we have course corrected it. We assure you that there's no damage done, because we have enough systems in place to verify that fact. I'm not just saying because I want to say it. I have logs and etc. to prove. So my systems behind the scene should be able to actually justify what I say, right? Now, whenever there's a breach or any incident, you have these agencies running behind asking for evidences. Now, a lot of these things come, in the public domain. Now, if I'm able to produce everything upfront and show the right thing, automatically my name gets cleared, and that's how people start trusting me, right? Because of late we have had instances where there have been unfortunate, some of the banks, etc., where we have had certain challenges, right? Now, that must have shaken people, but then I need to build that trust back because you can't paint everybody with the same brush. So yes, we have to have a transparent notice and then follow the principle in actually letter and spirit kind of thing.
So you think that tracking every activity in the more clear displayed way and having all clear is how you build trust.
Yeah,
and
you
maybe
need to
you
actually show
avoid
that
something.
you have ethical ways of doing things. It should not be just on paper, right? And you actually prove it by example, and then it's a word of mouth, and then people say, okay, you know what? I rather trust this bank than something else.
It's so interesting because you relate digitally, but you can make the relationship like very clear because each event or activity is tracked even more than what you can do in a physical environment, I say. So this is interesting, and this is something that we really focus on analytics and tracking data because these are the target and the objective. So thank you. Abhisheik, you on the business, you're more executing and you don't want to deal with the complaints or the compliance stuff, right? Or you need to, right?
So I think my perspective is slightly different on this one. Every technology has to go through its learning curve, especially you're educating the customer on a particular tech, right? So you could spread it out across various types of transactions. Some transactions are very view focused. They don't allow you to transact, but they give you a view of what the data or the previous transactions are. And then as you move ahead, when the customer is educated, then you allow that guy to transact over that particular technology so that then the execution of the transaction happens. So if I'm educating the person from this philosophy of first allowing him just to use the technology for viewing transaction and then moving him or graduating him to an execution of the transaction, I think the resistance level drops significantly. That's point number one. Point number two is when he is actually transacting and if there is a fraud that happens, how do you communicate back to the customer? How do you collect that information of what incident has happened? How do you go back and course correct? And then how do you again communicate back to a larger set of audience that, hey, we had a fault, we've corrected it, this is what it is, now let's move ahead because this problem is solved. I think that experience from a customer standpoint, if that is managed well, then the customers become much more palpable to a newer technology.
So you think that you're saying that if you build a very easy experience to handle that will make a training or make them trust also the activity, the conversion. And on the other hand, what you are explaining is if you are facing some alerts, frauds, or also all the activities that you perform to protect them against fraud, that's another element. So thank you. I think it's very important, and thank you for both the contributions. Well, trust, it's also on channels. How you build trust on the banking when you want to relate with the customers digitally. So for me, the first channel that there is a trend that everyone is now asking, mostly in India, but it's growing also out of India, it's WhatsApp. So bringing conversations that typically are started from, let's say, AI, so it's a bot, and then you hand over to a human. This could be a flow, a journey, a typical journey. But how you think that you can build trust with an application that it's not meta related? We're not judging meta. It's something that it's outside the banking environment because it disintermediates the mobile application or let's say the home banking web, but it's considered trusted. It's considered certified. So because we rely on meta or just because it's a trend? What do you think about this?
So I think as I see things, it's basically to do with how that architecture is built.
And by the way, we love WhatsApp. It's okay. I don't want to, let's say, put things that somebody will cut my okay, I'm just kidding.
So basically, I think it's to do with how that underlying architecture is built, right? So if you see the trend of, say, let's take WhatsApp again as an example, they have focused from day one when maybe even 5, 6 years, 7 years back when the concept of security and privacy was not as much as it is today. that, we are a very secure channel, we will encrypt everything. And, they have actually proven by, fighting out with the agencies when there were incidences that, sorry, I cannot decrypt even a criminal's, conversation. Now, all these things people read, right? And it resonates with us. So if this can happen to, with an FBI or such, agencies, that means, they are also securing my communication. So possibly that is one of the reasons why WhatsApp has picked up. It's obviously to do with the UI, the user interface, the user experience, and I think they are the early adapters of a lot of new things that others are just dreaming and slowly trying to catch up. The payments part through WhatsApp and all that. So I think that's primarily the reason why WhatsApp as a medium has picked up so much. The convenience, ease of use, combined with the security angle to it, everything is encrypted, etc. And because more and more people started using it and we start receiving more and more communication, it just becomes natural that we communicate more through that same channel. So then we just get hooked up to that system. And now I don't think there's any phone out here, which will not have at least one WhatsApp account, if not two, right? So I think that's how. So as long as we have systems to prove that what you do there is going to be securely done, along with the convenience and the features that end customer wants, I think it's going to be a great hit.
Thank you. Your opinion, Abhisheik?
I would resonate with what Ajit just said, that see, what WhatsApp has done is to kind of capture the customer and then start pushing in services, banking services to them. So that becomes like a one channel. From a trust standpoint, yes, encryption is one of the features that they're bringing in. But I think the ability to find out that there is a fraud happening or there is an issue with the customer, and then reversing that transaction to gain back the customer's trust, I think that's the critical part that WhatsApp does, which most banks would have to kind of imbibe as we go forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to give my contribution to the discussion. As I was saying, I'm focusing on WebRTC. Okay, so WebRTC protocol in Kaleyra, we build a successful solution for banking and financial institutions. So our first use case was a very simple one. Right now, if the bank wants to call you, I don't know, because it thinks you're using some fraud detection or you're using the card or they want to check if you're doing the right thing, they're calling you with the number that you don't recognize. So you won't even answer the phone. And typically, 80% of banking customer has a mobile application of the bank that they handle every day, like 10 times to make transfers, to check if enough money is over there, etc. So we wanted to build a simple interaction that was performing through the app because it's considered certified, secure. And it shows the brand, so the bank is calling you. So for me, as a story, but it's my part of the story, this is like something that you need to put in place because it's trusted channel and it brings the brand identity of the bank. So it's a handshake when you call it. And so in India, we're trying to pitch now, but first of all, we wanted to build the knowledge with you guys and other contributions before going and interact with banks, because I think it's the best way to represent a company is to build the knowledge and understanding what the sector is expecting. So for me, this is the most trusted and privileged channel that with Kaleyra can enable, but on the market, I think nothing is similar. So according to WebRTC and how the communication can be natively integrated, you think that this is a trend, or we're going for do-it-yourself where nobody wants to interact with the bank anymore?
No, so there is a need for the bank to interact with the customer. So it's not like everything is do-it-yourself. The only difference in what you said and what I'm observing today in the market is where the customer is calling the bank doesn't call the customer for other than the cross-sell opportunities that the bank sees. So if there is a technology like WebRTC where you can embed your video calling through a mobile app, which is the bank's mobile app, and then the customer interacts with you through that mobile app, I think that's one of the most trusted mechanisms of communication with the bank.
cool. So we can sell it to you, right? After this, we'll cut it.
Yeah.
I know this is just joking. So why do you think about these kind of channels? Because it looks like bank don't want to rely anymore on the professional, just wealth managers or private banking. But even those guys, they don't want to handle relationship with the customers. So we think that obviously Abhisheik was right. It's two-way. So you can decide if it's an inbound or an outbound. Obviously, outbound will show some features that are really, really cool. But these privileged channels and voice, video, and having an agent talk to the customer is something that will still happen, in your opinion, in the next years?
So, the interesting thing is, again, this is, something similar we have been doing for the last couple of years. So during COVID, I'm especially talking about retail areas, so we have a lot of retail clients. And they came to us and said, you know what, because of COVID, we can't have people coming to our store. But then we have, our store managers and the employees sitting there doing nothing. And we have our products there, how do I sell it? So one of the ways we actually brought out is something similar, where we actually did a store calling, right? So somebody from the store would call the customer who has shown some interest, say in a apparel or whatever, and give a virtual walkthrough of the apparel. Yes, you can't touch and feel, but you could actually do everything else, talk to that person, and then if you are happy, you actually strike the deal, right? And the apparel is actually shipped to you. So you are essentially saying something similar. Now that was done using WhatsApp. Now this would be a product that is integrated to a bank app, something. Now the only challenge that I see there is with regards to privacy, right? Now there is a communication, there is a FaceTime happening, there are biometrics being exchanged like iris and other things. Now how do we ensure that that is secure? Because I am sitting in one place, I may be say in a railway station or in an airport, right? And I'm waiting for my flight. So I had this conversation, I have half an hour, and the bank representative was talking to me is maybe in some other part of the country. Now there is over the internet data being flowing. So is it being recorded? Where it's being stored? How long are you going to store it? Right? So you need to have the right appropriate consent management done around it, right? And we do have situations where you have had incorrect or improper apps, people using those apps. Now what if I don't realize that this is not a genuine app of the bank and I end up using that, and if this gets integrated to that, then what happens? So there may be a lot of such questions. I think we'll have to find a way to make sure that it is addressed. Just like in WhatsApp, whatever communication I do is all encrypted, so that gives me that confidence. So similarly out here in this FaceTime, can I ensure that the FaceTime communication is transmitted in an encrypted way? So that may be the first way of assuring that, it's secure between two parties, and only that, a secured party can actually access it. So those kind of mechanisms will have to be put in place, and I think it will be a great hit, because think of the fact that I'm working and I have maybe 10 minutes in between my meeting, and I want to just do a quick communication with a banker, and I don't want to spend half a day traveling to the bank. Can I just pick up the mobile app, have the talk, finish it off, and done? So I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, because superficial approach on the assessment of all these, let's say, data requirements and security checks is important, and obviously working with high regulated environments is something that we perform, but it's always good to remind that it's not an easy project or an easy assessment. So thank you. Abhisheik, you think that, just to finally leave something, because I think we are running out of time. I don't know if somebody wants to ask something, but do we want to leave like key points, key pillar points that you think are necessary, are mandatory when you craft, or you want to craft as a bank or as a high regulated environment, the best customer experience as possible?
I think we've discussed most points, but I'll just try to summarize. So keeping the customer at the center, creating an omni-channel experience where the same look and feel or the same consistent messaging happens across all channels. Keeping trust in mind, obviously encryption and the other part that my friend was talking about comes in. I think these are key factors in which we can design a customer experience, and that has to be unique in a way that it has to be intuitive and it has to be very customer friendly. I think that's from a business standpoint, that's what I feel is going to be key.
Thank you. Well, Ajit, you leave your key elements to the folks.
Yeah, so I think coming back to the topic, right, technology game changers. So, as a nation, I think we are doing pretty good with most of the developed countries to adopt the latest technology, and some places we are the early movers, right? While we may be able to, like go to great depths in adopting these technologies, there are 2-3 factors that we generally, when we pitch for solutions for our clients. The first thing is look at your marketing maturity model, right? See where you are. You may end up buying a technology or a tool, but you may not be ready to use it, right? And then the pressure comes, okay, I've invested so much, where is the ROI? So look at where you are. Maybe it's better to delay the purchase by a few months or years, get the background ready so that the day the purchase happens, you're able to use it from day one. The second most important thing is connected data, right? So CDPs are, gaining a lot, right? So there is no, today, we have, I was just reading somewhere this morning. So on an average, a large company would have a minimum of 1,000 plus systems where the data resides. So essentially, you're talking of 1,000 plus copies of data residing in each of the system on an hypothetical level, right? Now, do I need so many copies? And how do I create a single view? Is when you will be able to target the customer better, because marketing budgets are going to shrink year by year, and with the same amount of money, I need to target more and get more returns so that I can pump in back. So how do I connect these various systems? So I may have different systems from different entities. How do I connect them and then join the dots so that I exactly know that I, as a customer, visited a branch this morning. I did part of my a transaction, or I had to rush back, and then in the evening when I call the call center should know that I stopped here, and from here they should continue the entire journey. They should not start from scratch. I think that is a really good thing, from a a good CX perspective. It's easy said than done. It's the most difficult thing to do, to connect these legacy systems, unless you are starting fresh and you build this idea, this design. So basically things like privacy and security by design incorporated in this entire thing would be the best mix to give you the best experience, right? So technology can only do so much, but we need to also know to use it and use it in the right way. Otherwise, it's just going to be a dead investment.
Thank you. So I don't see anybody that is cutting our meeting. So I don't know if you have some questions for our guests, or we can check if we're out of time. Yeah, okay. You want this?
Thank you so much. I'm from insurance industry. I wanted to know, how can we use technology to reduce the unclaimed amount? One of the issues that we face is an unclaimed amount. There's a similar issue which even mutual fund industries would be facing. So how can technology help us reduce that particular gap?
So I think this is a typical problem, right? Basically lapse customers, unclaimed amount. So these are typical use cases that we at Hansa Cequity get from our various clients that we are asked to solve for. And I think there are 3 or 4 answers to this. The first is use of the right analytical models to actually predict, right? So can I predict upfront that this is going to happen, this event is going to happen, and therefore I have better opportunities to take proactive actions to prevent that event happening in the first place, right? The second is to make sure that, there could be reasons why this thing is unclaimed. It could be that, the address is incorrect, therefore I don't know whom to, the mails have been sent, but it's not getting received, right? So how do I ensure that on a periodic basis, I have communication established with this customer, even just to say a hi, so that I know that I'm talking to the right individual, and all the checks and balances in terms of nominees and those kind of things are in place, so that the primary stakeholder, if he or she is not there, I at least have somebody to go back to, and then follow the the law of the process in terms of paying out. So I think these are some steps that we will have to do, because there is a reason why it has become unclaimed. So we will have to look at that and look at your underlying data. Now, typically, one of the main problems that we face as an organization is bad data. When I say bad data, it is non-contactable data. I have tons and tons of email IDs and mobile number, but they are not reachable. Now, what do I do with them? Because typically in an insurance, if I buy a term plan of say 90 years, 100 years, I bought it on day one, I just keep paying for X amount, and maybe after that I don't have to pay whatever the plan is, then if I don't reach out to the customer, maybe that customer has changed the mobile number, or that customer is, maybe it's become too old, and now the next generation is, operating on that behalf. So there could be so many reasons. I think we'll have to look at the underlying causes, but it is a solvable problem. Now, can you solve it as a 100% thing? We don't know. We'll have to look at the root causes and then maybe attack on an 80-20 principle to see how we are able to reduce the problem statement and bring it down to zero. First of all, and put in processes in place that you can prevent this in the first place itself.
Thank you.
And it's interesting because the data cleaning or the data update is something that our clients ask us, to understand if the number is real there, it's really there, how to have a feedback from the customer using a conversation. This could be a strategy, but what correctly Ajit was saying is all about building the right process, backbone and front end. But according to claim, a typically process that we are used to manage is how you manage claim remotely. Understand, first of all, if it's a fraud or if it's a real claim, okay, and you need some tools, but you can also easily build a video conversation very quickly where you take pictures, and all these pictures go in a logic that predicts or tells you if this is it's a good claim or it's a bad claim, okay? And handle it remotely, do it yourself, and physically when needed. When building this strategy, I think it's the best way to handle all the identity and the preference of the single clients, because we all know that there's not one channel and one strategy that works for everyone,
Just wanted to add one point with your permission. So, now the next set of technologies are where it's trying to understand so whether it's a bot or a human being who's actually doing the transaction. So basis the movement of my mobile phone, right? So I kind of build a pattern of how that, how hard you press a key, for example, right? When you type. And that's, so the impression, the force applied is actually measured. And that's, so the way he types and the way I type will be very different, right? So therefore, when next time you interact with me, if I'm not using that kind of a pressure, there's something wrong about it. So then I immediately activate my next level of cross-checking to make sure that it's actually me that you're talking to and not somebody else. It could still be a genuine case where you're talking to my next of kin or somebody, right? But then you still need to verify that you're talking to an authentic customer. So these are some new age mechanisms to preempt and prevent frauds.
Yes, in this, check. Check. All right, so for this particular fireside chat, we'll call it a wrap. Give it up for the gentleman present here. Quite some insightful conversation we just witnessed. Thank you once again. And with this, we will also move forward in the day. For the proceedings, we also have one interesting session coming up right next. But before that, we'll take a quick 5 minutes break. And the next one is also a report launch. So just in case if anybody wants to stay back for the session, you can please grab your seat right away. Thank you once again for joining in this session. Looking forward to have you in the next one too. Stay tuned.